Hey everyone, it's me, Jen, and I'm nothing if not intense. It's Sunday, November 25th, and I hope you are all ready for the Danley Deep Dive Part 2. Tonight, or today, we're going to be looking at September 29th. I wanted to do the 29th and the 30th, but I think I have so much on the 29th that I think we're going to just focus on that. But keeping in mind the theory of the big lie, if you say something outrageous, but you say it often enough, and you repeat it over and over, most will come to believe you. And that's exactly what they did with Mary Lou Danley, saying that she was out of the country. She was out of the country at the time of the shooting. She was out of the country at the time of the shooting. No, she wasn't. She was in Las Vegas the night of the shooting. And that's what we're going to be talking about, obviously. That's my whole thing, because for months and months and months and months, I've known that she was in Vegas that night. And it's super important that we look at this, because it's a huge part of this whole event. So looking at the LVMPD final report for September 29th in the overview, talks about a second refrigerator getting delivered to 32135, some cleaning that's going on, at 15:06, 3:06 in the afternoon, Paddock checked into room 32134, parentheses, under Danley's name. That's really important. From the VIP check-in counter at Mandalay Bay. From 3:09 to 1 o'clock in the morning that next morning, September 30th, they say Paddock remained inside the rooms 32134 and 32135. At like 11:11, a room service ticket totaling $102.99 was charged to 32134. $102.99 for one person. Now I know I know room service isn't cheap, but $102.99 for one person seems a little ridiculous, even for somebody that would sit there and eat 2 entrees all by themselves. Still seems a little out there. So the thing I really want to focus on is where they say he checked into the room 32134 under Danley's name, because this is supposedly when he used quote-unquote her ID to check into that room, because that is their explanation for her player's card and other ID and documentation that was found in room 32135. Correct? That's what I've always thought. That is their explanation, and that's the only explanation they've ever given for her personal ID information being in that room. We're back at those FBI warrants, search warrants that were the first ones to be released. I have went back through these, and oh my gosh, a whole ton of information in here. But relating to this, what I found was there were 4 different FBI agents applying for search warrants, and they have to give some narrative or some facts based on what happened to get the search warrant approved. This is why I'm asking for the search warrant. So within their explanation, each one of these agents within these search warrant applications say both hotel rooms were registered in his name, meaning Stephen Paddock. Both hotel rooms were registered in his name, 32134 and 32135. Now this particular warrant right here is Heather Burton, and within her statement a Players Club in the name of Mary Lou Danley was located in Paddock's room, and the card returned to the same Babbling Brook address in Mesquite. That's what she says, which is good. Now, the other 3 agents say the same thing. Both hotel rooms were registered in his name. However, they add FBI agents located Danley, who was traveling outside the United States at the time of the shooting. Heather Burton, I think, did at least 2 warrants, if not more, and she never stated that. The rest of the agents, every time they did a warrant, and a lot of this is just copy and paste, you know, for these warrants, which I totally understand. Why reinvent the wheel? Why type all this crap again? But the other 3 agents, you know, just had to add that in, that they located her and she was traveling outside the United States at the time of the shooting. That is false. That is false. And there's a few more things in these search warrants that we know isn't true. But I don't want to get stuck there because I want to focus on Mary Lou, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to look at this, I'm looking at that, and I'm like, I'm getting so sidetracked because I found so much more now. I understand so much more than I did back in January when these first came out. And there's so much more to connect the dots. And it's like, holy shit. But the kicker for me with the room thing is the warrants that LVMPD started that night of the shooting, or October 2nd, early morning hours. And this is William Brewer, and he's works counterterrorism. A check of the room registration at Mandalay Bay indicated the room was registered, checked into on September 29th to a Stephen Paddock, 1372 Babbling Brook Court, Mesquite, Nevada, on September 29th. So this officer is talking about 32134, not 32135. He is specifically talking about 32134, the room that supposedly Stephen Paddock used Mary Lou Danley's ID to check into. It further goes that they found a player's card in her name. A records check further revealed Danley was registered to the same rooms and also listed the Babbling Brook Court as her current address. They didn't say she checked into it, but they said she was registered like a registered guest. Sheriff Lombardo told us that he added her name onto 135 on September 28th because that's when she got to Mandalay Bay. And then obviously when he went ahead and checked into 134, she was there and he put her as a registered guest on 134. So when anybody says that he used her ID to check into a hotel room, they are lying. They are lying. Flat out, period. No other explanation. Well, oh, maybe so-and-so made a mistake and no, they're fucking lying. I get so sick of people trying to explain away these outright blatant lies, because that's what they are. That's exactly what they are. Nothing more, nothing less. Big, huge lies. Because they had to come up with some excuse to explain why any of her ID would have been found in any of those rooms if she was quote-unquote out of the country at the time that it happened. Do you understand that? It makes perfect logical sense to me. And it's shown to us over and over and over and over that she was not, her name, she was on those rooms as a registered guest, but not the person that's responsible for that room, that checked into the room, and that is paying for those rooms. That was Stephen Paddock. And so the 29th and the whole 32134 deal, super important to know that their whole story about that is bullshit. He checked into that room, not her. She was there, so he put her name on it like he did when they were traveling, so that she could have run of all the perks and all that good stuff. Another part of the story is also that Stephen Paddock loved Mary Lou so much that he sent her away to the Philippines so she wouldn't be involved with this event. So if he loved her so much and that was the story that he sent her away, why the hell would her name be on any room or her ID be anywhere in that hotel? What are we supposed to believe? That he used some of her ID to check into 134? Or that he sent her away because he loved her so much and did not want her to be involved in this? Because by using her ID to quote-unquote check into 134, that's involving her. Well, guess what? Shit can both those stories, because neither one of them are the truth. The truth is she was in Las Vegas. She was very much in Las Vegas from the 28th until October 2nd. That's why her ID and her player's card was in that room, and whatever else was in the master bedroom, because she was there. That's why her name was being thrown out, because she was there. She wasn't in the Philippines. And you cannot tell me that these detectives and these people did not know who actually was the person registered to those rooms. It was Stephen Paddock. They knew that. Now, was she registered as a guest in both those rooms? Yes. But that she is not the responsible party that actually checked into the room and registered the room and is paying for the rooms. That was Stephen Paddock. Neither one of those rooms were in her name. So what does that do to the narrative? What does that do? Kaboom! There, it blows a huge hole in it. A huge hole that can't be explained or excused away other than it's a big, huge lie. That's the explanation, and that's the only explanation. There were also sightings of Mary Lou on the 29th by a couple of Mandalay Bay employees. The first one is Selena from the Noodle Shop, and she is interviewed on 10/9 by Hodson, who's on the FIT team. There's also FBI there, and there is somebody else there with the initials of DH, and I don't know who that is. But she goes on to say that she wasn't there on the initial, the night of the shooting. She wasn't working. But she was there on Friday, and she served a table at 12 o'clock, 12:05. And she believed that to be Stephen Paddock and Mary Lou Danley. She gives descriptions and says that she kept telling the hostess, I think that lady's Filipino. And, you know, they're asking her to describe him, and she's like, oh, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention to him, I was paying more attention to her. You know, it's a girl thing. And one of her big things was, like, from a distance, this person looked real young, but once she got closer, then she could tell she wasn't that young because of the gray hair, the gray roots. And but she did say that the person was very fit, you know, and she thought that person to be around age 55 or so. They did eat, and once they were done eating, she said the guy took off towards the casino, and the lady asked to use the restroom. She didn't know how they paid because that wasn't her job. She said she was thin and very fit and was wearing like a tennis skirt. And once everything started happening and she got a call from her daughter, turned on the TV, and she was like, oh my gosh, she said she knew that couple and she was sure that the lady was Filipino. And that was about it. So that was on Friday the 29th. She says around noon, 12:05, this couple came in to the noodle shop and ate lunch, and she believed it to be Stephen Paddock and Mary Lou Danley. Then we have, Daniel Cruz, who's valet attendant. He was first interviewed on the 3rd by a couple detectives and MGM VP of Legal Counsel, attorney Ashley Eddy, AE, seen those initials before. He had some interaction with Paddock on the 26th, but then he said he was working on Friday, the 29th, and saw Paddock in the valet area standing next to his vehicle with a short Asian female. Cruz believed Paddock was drunk, and the Asian female was happy and nice. Cruz asked Paddock where he was coming from, and he said that concert across the street. Paddock gave Cruz $5, and Cruz left. Cruz stated he was 100% sure it was Paddock, and he was 100% sure it was Friday because he took that Saturday off. He could not remember what Paddock or the Asian female were wearing, and nothing really stuck out from his interaction with Paddock. So they come back to him on October 5th and do a second interview. Same detectives, VP of Legal Counsel, AE's there, and they explained that they wanted to question him again in reference to the interaction on the 29th and ask, I think it's supposed to be like the detective asked Cruz if he had had some time to think about it, referring to the last interview, and then asked Cruz if he was still 100% positive what you told us, or has anything changed? And Cruz replied, no, it's the same. So he didn't feel the need to change his story in any way. Then he said Cruz explained he wasn't sure if the female with Paddock was Danley, but Paddock was with an Asian female. The female was driving the vehicle and Paddock was the passenger. As Cruz explained how they were in the vehicle when he observed them, an unknown female interrupted the interview and the interview stopped recording. So that it stopped for a few minutes and then they continued, and Cruz explained how he interacted with Paddock, who was possibly drunk, and how the Asian female was laughing. Now, if you remember the hairstylist's statement, she referenced Mary Lou as laughing, oh, ha, 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 you know, oh, he talk about this, he talk about that, whatever. Then they start asking Cruz if he knows a guy named Phil Torres, and he said yes, he's a baggage handler. And they ask him if he saw him on the 29th, and Cruz is like, I don't know. Then they go on to explain that they interviewed him, and what Torres told them is that he saw Paddock on the night of September 29th. So now they're telling us this was at night. They just told us this was at night because we didn't know that, but now we do. The night of September 29th. Torres stated Paddock was alone and not drunk. And then the detective explained that they were having a hard time finding any video of the interaction between Cruz and Paddock. Then they asked him, could it have been a mistaken identity, seeing Paddock on the 29th? And Cruz stated it could have been. He was 50-50 on it. 50% sure that it was Paddock. Then Ashley Eddy asked Cruz how much the tip was that he received from the individual. Cruz stated it was a couple dollars. Then the detective asked Cruz if he ever referred to Paddock by his name, and Cruz responded no. And then they asked him what the Asian female looked like, and he responded Asian. Then he described her as 4'11" to 5'2" with dark hair. Now, one thing I do want to say about Mary Lou Danley is, if this makes sense, is she is a tall 4'11", because I'm about 5'4", and I would swear that I don't look as tall as she does in pictures. She is not a short, little squatty, little Filipino looking chick. She, to me, looks taller than 4'11" in every picture that I have seen of her. So that's just a side note. I think she would look taller than me in pictures. Now, so they were never able to corroborate Cruz's story about the 29th. But they were never able to corroborate Phil Torres's story about the 29th either. So I think because they're stating that Paddock stayed in those rooms between 1:34 and 1:35 from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 1 o'clock that next morning. That is in their overview for the 29th. So it basically, once he checked into 1:34, he went back to the room, and that's where he stayed in between 1:35 and 1:34 until 1 o'clock in the morning until he leaves for Mesquite. That doesn't seem typical because he's usually not in the room that long. So Torres is interviewed on the 3rd also by the detectives and Ashley Eddy, VP of Legal Counsel. Torres interacted on the 26th with Paddock supposedly also. And then on the 29th, Torres was saying he was working and was called over by Valet to help a guest. He walked over there, recognized the guest to be Paddock, and possibly shook his hand. Possibly shook his hand? I mean, either he shook his hand or he didn't. Paddock requested Torres take him upstairs. Torres stated he would request a bellman to help. During this encounter, Paddock was alone and had luggage items on a cart. Torres escorted Paddock to the service elevator where he was believed to have met bellman Jorge Morales. Again, they weren't able to corroborate Torres' story. But they only interviewed Torres once. They didn't go back and grill him like they did Cruz. So I would tend to believe Cruz, and how convenient that there's no CCTV of that interaction. They made that disappear. I mean, they can do that. And let's not forget the sushi bar employee. I'm not sure if this is a he or she. I'm just going to say he. I don't know. They interviewed this person on the 4th. Same detectives, 2 detectives minus Ashley Eddy, VP of Legal Counsel from MGM. But on the 29th at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon, this person says Paddock came into the sushi bar, sat at a table alone, and ordered 2 rolls and a glass of water. This person knows Paddock by face and name due to Paddock frequenting the sushi bar in the past. Okay, so we've got Selena saying that him and Mary Lou were in the noodle shop at 12:05 on the 29th, and that they ate. We've got this sushi bar employee saying that Paddock came into the sushi bar by himself at 1:30 and ate. And then we've got the overview in the report that says that at 12:28 he went to the sushi bar from 12:28 to 1:14. And ate and returned to his room. So which is it? Did he eat at the sushi bar at 1:30? Did he eat at the sushi bar at 12:28? Or more than likely, did him and Mary Lou eat at the noodle shop a little bit after 12 on that day? I would tend to believe Selena. She was the most detailed. We have a statement in PDF 10 from her. I don't see a statement for the sushi bar employee or for Cruz or Torres within any of the PDFs. Now, I might have missed it somewhere, but I don't think I did. We are going to go ahead and button up September 29th. The key for me is 32-134. he did not use her ID to check in to 32134. I think that's pretty well established in all these applications for search warrants with all these different agents, special agents, officers, counterterrorism people. Everyone says both rooms were registered to Stephen Paddock. Both rooms were in his name. So just say, for shits and giggles, if he did use her room or her ID to check into 32134, then why would he then put his name on that room? It didn't happen. It doesn't make any sense. This is just, that was their story that they came up with, obviously on the fly, because it's not a very good one, to cover the fact that her ID was found in that room. They needed something to explain that away, and this is what they came up with. Now, nobody said that they were geniuses, but they did have a lot on their plate, and they had a lot to cover up that night. So maybe we need to give them a break. It's so shitty. It's so shitty, but that's the crux of the 29th for me. And a couple sightings by the Mandalay Bay employees that I tend to believe. There's no reason for them to lie about something like that. Daniel Cruz, he doubled down. He doubled down on his story. He didn't want to change anything. But after a certain amount of time with an FBI agent, detectives, the VP of legal counsel for MGM, your second time that they've got you at the table, you may feel like you need to back off your story. Now, it doesn't seem like they tried to do that with the noodle shop girl, but I don't know. But I tend to believe her account of that day also, because he certainly didn't eat at the noodle shop at a little bit after 12 and then go to the sushi bar and eat at 12:28 like the overview says, or even at 1:30 like the employee says. So something is amiss there, and the common denominator again is Mary Lou Danley was at the hotel at that time. This is when these statements and stories really start falling apart, or the stories that they've made up versus the statements of the people that were actually there on that day. Everything is starting to fall apart. I'm gonna leave you with a little clip from Good Morning America. It was in the early morning hours of October 2nd that I just found to be kind of ironic. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for all your support. I appreciate it more than you know. I'm going to try to get caught up on my comments, but I have so many videos in my head too that I would like to try to get out. But again, per usual, this wonderful computer has given me fits today, so this is literally taking me hours, way longer than it should have. But hey, I haven't thrown this thing out the front door yet, so I consider it a good day. Everybody take care, and I will be with you again soon. Thanks so much, guys.
And you know what else we're going to start looking at is, remember, now that we know that he was at the hotel since September 28th, they're going to want to know, what was he doing? Remember, Las Vegas is the home of surveillance cameras. They're everywhere. So we're going to get a real good sense of any time, if he left that hotel room, where he was, where he went, etc. in the hotel.
Part of what they've reported so far that I don't quite understand, they say he used his companion's ID to get in the hotel. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think here's what happens when, and Ray knows this very well, when things are breaking, right, information kind of trickles out, and then we learn that it wasn't precisely what we had initially thought, right? And my guess is we're going to learn that he didn't actually check in using her ID, but maybe sort of used her identification at one point at the hotel in some way, shape, or form, maybe to get I don't know, gambling money, whatever the case may be. But they're really careful in Vegas about identifications. I mean, it's not the sort of place where you can just give a fake ID and they say, oh, whatever. So I think we're going to learn more as time goes on that's going to start to make that make sense.